I like, click, subscribe, do all that. You're at the top of this is Netflix time. This movie's called Illang, the Wolf Brigade. In 2029, the elite police squad Illang combats a terrorist group opposing reunification of the two Koreas, but another enemy may be lurking nearby. It's a Korean sci-fi movie. I don't think there's really anything sci-fi about it though, but came out 2018, 2 hours and 19 minutes long. Spoiler alert, let's just get it. So apparently there was a special group called Sect that were under orders. They were supposed to wipe out some insurgents, but instead they were in this dark room and ended up wiping out 15 unarmed girls. This had Lim damn near traumatized for life. Because of the shame, this group started hiding and wearing masks. And they became the squad known as the Wolf Brigade. 5 years later, we got this chick walking towards a rally, and the reunification for Korea has been suspended. Now it's all out beef between them niggas and the police. Then also these niggas start launching firebombs, and they all about that action. Come to find out that little girl's actually the one that supplied them with the bombs. So already intense protests easily became firearms and weapons and guns from certain people. Those people from the sector, the police weren't prepared for it with their batons and shields. They start going crazy. Then also this big ass tank comes out of nowhere, and it's a special police task force. Yeah. So the sector niggas got to dip back out, go to their underground base. They run into the main spot, but the task force knew where to find them at. And oh shit, you already know it's about to go down. Most of them niggas end up getting laced. Then we find the girl by herself. It was that approaching her, it's Lim. He told her to surrender, but she like, fuck that shit. Activates a bomb in her person, blows herself the fuck up. Next day, Lim wakes up, he's traumatized. Well, traumatized all over again after 5 years ago. Next day, the chief executive, this guy named they have a meeting about Lim. And basically, they're gonna use him as a scapegoat to get out of all this shit. Afterwards, they're gonna meet up with somebody else. This dude by the name of Han, he done moved up in the ranking. A long time ago, he used to be part of the brigade. He was there in an incident called Bloody Friday that happened 5 years ago. So he's in charge of the dirty work, and now they about to get it cracking. So after Lim gets some medical attention, he goes to the building where Bloody Friday happened and meets up with Han. They talk about the crazy times they had, but more specifically, he gives her a folder. It's a folder with a journal in it. And basically we find out the girl that blew herself up has a sister. His mission is to go talk to the sister and he could sort out any demons that he still has about Bloody Friday and everything else like that, especially with the fact of, he was the last person to see his sister alive and whatnot. I know in the back of his mind he's thinking to himself, why does Han want him to do this? Later on, Lin joins the crew and there's a shootout, all types of mayhem happening, but we find out it's all just a training exercise. But he's thinking too much about the girl that got blown up and he's not keeping himself focused. So he gets himself together, rides on one of those air-driven light rails, and he just happens to be on the same one as Young Lee, the girl's older sister. She paid little attention at first until she noticed the journal that's in his hand. She knew right off the back whose it was. They decide to meet up at this little coffee spot, and they get to talking. They eat some noodles, and then they go to a bookshop. Then she tells him the story about Little Red Riding Hood. It's some very profound and graphic imagery when it comes to this. So you know the story of Red Riding Hood, but anyway, the profound statements in it. She says who sent her to grandma's house in the first place, how'd the wolf get into the house, and a bunch of other questions. The statement she's trying to make is who's the real bad guy here, and who forced other people to be in situations where they had to kill. Basically, it's a statement based on their real life actions. Now, why do I say they like I'm not just talking about Lim? Because after he gets on the bus and dips off, she goes off in another direction. Goes to this car that's waiting for her. And in the car is Han. Han wants Young Lee to seduce Lim long enough to get him in a position where they can kill him. The only reason she's doing this is to get a lighter sentence and to get the medicine her brother needs. So that's when we find out there's a third sibling, other than the one that blew herself up in the base. So basically, she's forced into this situation. Afterwards, Han meets up with his boss, the Prime Minister, and he's making sure everything goes according to plan. And him and the Chief Executive have talks. And apparently, not all of the sector members were killed in the underground base that day. They've been popping out of hiding, knocking niggas off. Very important people in the upper ranks, they're getting popped off. He's trying to follow their moves carefully and stay out of the way. So once again, Han is in charge of all this. So at the donut shop, Young Lee was about to go see her brother, but Han says, nah, I got something important for you. Drop that shit. What the heck is Lim about to go do? So Han talks to a squad. He says, look, Young Lee is going to take Lim on a date. He's going to have him in this building. The only way he's going to be able to get out is the escalator. When they get there, surround the building, you already know what to do. So while Young Lee is walking, she ends up meeting this chick. Turns out she's one of the sectors that was still alive. And she knows more about Young Lee than we realized. This guy named Kim Chu was listening in the background. Turns out a while ago, he was a key essential piece to the sectors. Anyway, Young Lee gives her some money, tells her to be careful. Kim gives Un the information and tells him to follow Young Lee. But instead, he ends up following the other chick, Park Cho. And it was a bit of a struggle, it was beef, but eventually they end up getting her. And then they get to talking. Then he shows her pictures of incriminating footage. Basically, two people from the opposite sides are working together. Basically, if this information gets spread, it can shut down the whole organization. Ain't no niggas don't want that shit. So a long time ago, Han recruited Young Lee to do something. They wanted her to take out a certain man. What did she end up doing? But she ended up taking out both these niggas instead. Straight done deal their ass. So apparently that's why it's important for Park Lo to lay low. But the only reason she rose to the surface is because she needed money. It's been like a year. The thing she didn't know was public security was the one financing her anyway, even though that's the group they're fighting against. Trust me, it's some wild shit. So Un asked this guy to keep a tab on Lim, try to figure out if his phone's being tapped, which indeed it is. They needed to send him this code, but they can't do it because his phone is tapped and they just found it out. Later on, Young Chi goes to visit her brother anyway, and she makes sure he's good. So apparently when she killed those dudes, it was actually under Han's orders. I got a little confused at this part, honestly, I can't even front. But now she's on her way to the building to meet Lim. But she meets him at the park first and then he takes him over there. They get in the building, the part they're in, it looks like some type of historical museum, like giving the information on landmarks and whatnot. So she's about to go to the bathroom real quick, right? Keep your eyes on her. Now she has a gun in her purse. Now what Hans tells her to do is to act like you have a smile, drop the gun down, and once she does that, press the tracking button on your necklace. And they'll come running in to get her and do all this other stuff. And that's the tracking device. They didn't tell her they planned on killing Lim though. But before she comes out the bathroom to do what she's gonna do, Park Lo comes out the blue and interrupts her. She gives her some advice about not trusting niggas and make your own choices. So apparently she dips around the corner, and the guys that are already in there already think something ain't right. And then Lim starts meleeing niggas. So Han's like, man, what the fuck is going on? More melee on niggas. Then all of a sudden they send in a freaking drone. And this drone starts shooting up everything, lacing everything. There's just flying through. He smashes the fuck out of it. So the only way they will get out is through the window. He ties a fire extinguisher on their holes around each other. Before SWAT gets to him, they jump out the freaking window. They land on this one little rampway and get up out of there. Han's like, fuck that, we gotta get these niggas. They end up getting to a parking lot. Now watch this shit. This nigga jump kicked through the fucking window. He jump kicked the dude through the glass, out the fucking window, got the cars dipped off. Well, he's got Young Lee with him. A bunch of mayhem happens, cars get wrecked. Then it's Han and Lim with the conversation. Han tries to tell Lim some bullshit. Lim is like, hey, look at the phone. And it's got the incriminating pictures on it. Han is angry. But Lim don't care about that. He gets to the car, gets the fuck out of there. He goes back to his boss. He's like, man, fix this or I'll fix you. You gonna take responsibility for this? And of course he will. That look on his face is fucking priceless. So after they get loose, Lim is like, hey man, you can either do what you want or come with me or whatever. But she's like, she's pretty much fucked. She ain't got nowhere else to go. I'm thinking to myself, what about your brother? So Hans get back in the office. He finds out the nigga Kim Chu is still out here on the streets. He knows Young Lee still has the tracking on her. But they can't track her unless she pushes the button. Apparently the niggas found Kim. Kim, you better get your ass up out of there. But he can't, it's too late. Han's trying to get information out of him, but Kim ain't telling him shit. So he starts putting targets on him, and every time he doesn't tell him what he wants, he's gonna shoot a target. Then Hans starts getting impatient, and while he's doing this, Kim ended up getting one hand free, but Hans ended up losing control and shooting this nigga in his head. Face. Done deal, deaded his ass. Whether by accident or on purpose, he's like, man, clean up this mess. Meanwhile, Lim and Young Lee go to this abandoned spot. He gets the info from the boss about change of plans. Since they kidnapped Kim and got him done deal, he's got to keep Young Lee with him. She keeps talking about how she was putting all these situations and her feelings and all that. It's hard to tell whether he has sympathy for her or not. I mean, I think he does because of her little sister and the position that her brother's in, and the way he was feeling about Bloody Friday 5 years ago. But after she pretty much poured her heart out to him, he gets a phone call from again. He tells him to meet at a different location. But the way he sounds when he's talking on the phone, it sounds like Liam doesn't even care about this girl. So while he's on the phone, she goes to the other side of the room and presses the tracking device on her necklace, alerting Han where the fuck she is. So later on, Liam and Young Lee go to get a taxi and get to the spot. And they end up going underground. Turns out they end up going back to the base of operations. So she tells him what she did. She tells him about the tracking device and all that. But then she sees all these other people coming to meet up with him. Turns out it's the rest of the sector. So the thing is, Lim knew the entire time what she was doing. In fact, he did it on purpose because she was actually the bait. He was waiting on her to push the tracking device so he could bring Han and his group straight to him. Because the people that are left are indeed the Wolf Brigade. I know her head's gotta be spinning in circles right now. A bunch of Han's crew coming there getting well-deserved deaths. Had all them niggas was dying. Han had to call the elite squad. And even after they put up bombs on both sides, it still wasn't enough because they all ended up getting deaded. Han got shot a couple of times, but he still just kept getting up. He got shot in his arm, but he was still getting away. Then he comes to a spot in the sewer. He's staring at a big-ass wall. Nowhere for him to go at all. He knows it's a sewer drain, but right before he can get there, Lim's there telling him to surrender, get it over that deal. And as he's pretty much about to die, he launches one more bomb. Launches that shit down there. It ain't do nothing to him. And then he gets the lacing and finishes his ass off for the road. That's it. There you go, Han's dead as shit. And his body just floats through the sewer hole he was trying to get away from. Trying to get away too. The imagery was just awesome. So back to Young Lee. He's like, man, we're gonna finish off. We just not gonna do it here and leave her with these scum. So basically, they got her in a van. Bunch of things going through Lim's mind. They take her to the Bloody Friday building and flat out they about to end her execution style. But then Lim comes back and he's like, why we gotta do this? She's already been the use of us. Yeah, she was a traitor, but she gave us the information. He's like, man, you know how we do in the Brigade. You know how this goes down. Then he tells Lim to do it himself. But we got a good feeling Lim's not gonna do it. Apparently, did too. Because he calls the sniper he still had sitting there and tells him to back off. Then goes back there with his gear. He's like, fuck this. I'm handling this myself. There's a one-on-one battle between Lim and And is like, come on, man, what's going on with you? Why you can't do it? The thing is, he wants her to live, thinking about her brother, thinking about how he was forced to do what he had to do on the Bloody Friday 5 years ago. And basically, he wants out at this point. So he drops his gun, he says, I'm done. And after that, all of a sudden, we hear a shot go off. So wait a minute, did unkill Lim? What the fuck? Next thing we know, we see Lee at the bank and she's getting a bank statement for like $200 million. Seeing how Hans is dead and niggas wanted to kill her, I'm not sure who the fuck paid her. The information got out, the big boss is going down. Then we see the boss actually burning the real pictures. Just sitting there burning everything. Next thing we see is somebody hoodie in a backpack. Turns out it was Long Yi's brother. He's back and healthy or whatever like that. But who is that watching him? Young Lee meets up with her brother, they about to dip off. Turns out Lim is still alive. I guess had second thoughts about it and wants him to actually live his life. But she gets on the train to her brother and he dips off. Trust me, this movie has a lot of political stuff, a lot of action, and a lot of mayhem. Illang, the Wolf Brigade on Netflix. Check it out, like, click, subscribe, do all that. You already on top of this. These are the easy best stars. This is good. Big, you got that slogan.